Welcome to the Managing the Smart Mind podcast with your host, Coach Kramer. This is episode 65, The Beautiful Vision of Judith Gaton, part 2. Well, hello, smart human. Welcome to the second part of my interview with the incredibly awesome and fierce, the one and only Judith Gaton. If you haven't heard the first part yet, do not proceed. Go back and listen to the previous episode first. It will make way more sense that way. And if you have, I'm sure you're dying to hear more about Judith's vision and what she's trying to change and achieve in the world. On this episode, we talk about changing the discourse around wealth, how the way you take care of yourself in even the smallest ways speaks volumes about how much space you're actually willing to take up. We talk about having social interaction plans, getting permission slips for everything you need, no longer tolerating things that are physically uncomfortable, if not unbearable. We talk about her beautifully ambitious vision for what she wants to create and change in the world, right? The legacy she wants to leave. We talk about how she runs her business in a way that keeps it exciting and fresh, and the importance of economics, especially for artists and other creators. And last but not least, and this is a recurring theme on this podcast, about her finding her own way as an entrepreneur rather than listening to other people's advice, which hardly ever works, right? And as a bonus, Judith also has a great thought exercise, which I think you're going to enjoy. So, bringing to you part the second of the interview with Judith Gaton.
And so many women live because I observed this in my mother, who was a single mom working really, really hard, are living day to day, moment to moment, like just get through today. Like, this is a constant refrain I hear from my clients, and it's so heartbreaking to me. Like, oh, I got through today, or just get through today, just get through today. And I'm like, okay, if we're just getting through today, we are not thinking bigger picture. We've stopped dreaming. We've stopped hoping. And dreams deferred are so incredibly painful.
Yes.
They're so painful. Oh, they're so painful. And, hope deferred is so painful. So part of what I'm enlisting you in is, yes, I'm going to help you change your underwear and buy bras that fit you, while also talking to you about why it is that we got into the position where none of our bras and underwear fit us. Yeah. And if we extrapolate that concept outward, where else are we tolerating things that no longer fit us? So one of the questions I constantly ask my clients when I'm teaching a style concept or I'm teaching something that's very practical, as I said, where else? Where else
in your life is this playing out?
Where's this playing out? Yeah. So I kind of tease them. I said, if all of your panties are period panties, something's gone wrong here.
Yeah.
Where have we stopped caring for ourselves? Where did we stop paying attention to ourselves? And where else is this showing up that we have a proverbial period panty or janky pair of underwear floating around in some other area of your life? Your relationships, how you see your finances, how you care for your home, any number of things, right? So that's, I think, the subversive part. It's charming and it's lighthearted to start talking about wearing new bras and underwear.
Yeah.
But because I'm going to show you where else the lesson and the meta sense applies, so that we can really change your life. So you can start looking past tomorrow or the next hour, just getting through this evening. And we can look at what's the greater ripple effect that you would like to leave in your wake, because we all will pass.
Yep.
And what would you like to leave behind? And I think sometimes when we think of wealth, I'm pontificating. I'm sorry.
I love it. This is where you can do that.
I guess I could do that here. But I mean, I think in terms of wealth, sometimes because so much wealth conversation happens in terms of a very patriarchal sense of the stuff. And as a lawyer, yes, absolutely. There's an estate of things that you leave behind. Yeah. Absolutely. But
the silverware.
Right, the silverware and the stocks and the bonds and the certificates and all those things, right? But what I think is a more interesting question, and particularly because so much of women's labor goes unpaid, is a wealth of knowledge and skills and stories and lessons and things that are not monetarily quantifiable because we've chosen not to do that as a society.
100%.
And
I think you see that also
cool.
a lot in like the fashion industry, right? Traditionally, and even looking at arts, anything that is like textile is you never used to be taken seriously in the art world,
Right.
interestingly. And that is what women did. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's so, I mean, there's so much juiciness and richness like there. And if I can sell you on this part of my, like, if I can sell you on like getting ready in the morning, taking better care of yourself, buying some new underwear, girl, we're going to change your life. That's just the beginning.
And I think this is also about taking up space.
Yes.
Right. Which also a lot of, I think not just women, also some introverted men, gifted men struggle with. Like, am I even allowed to take up space? Is it safe for me to take up space?
And I think space in expansive way, like our bodies, our voices, our ideas.
Yes. 100%. I think when you start taking really good care of yourself because you want to, right? Not because you're watching too much Instagram and think I cannot go out without makeup, right?
Right.
It's not healthy. But because you want to, because you enjoy it, then you're also saying to the world, hey, I am here. I'm taking up some space, right? Hello, this is me. Instead of like, oh my God, I'm kind of a bit of a ghost floating around, trying not to annoy anyone.
Well, and I call it the brain without a body syndrome. And I think because I coach a lot of what I call smart cookie high achievers. I'm like, you've operated for so long like you're a brain without a body because you've been told, well, you're smart. Don't worry about that stuff. Don't you worry about your clothes or any of that stuff. That's for those other people. You just go be smart. Don't worry about money. The money will come to you. You're smart. It's
another amazing fallacy.
What? I have questions. Who's propagating this bullshit? It makes no sense, right? Or any number of don't worry about it because you're smart kind of conversations. So then we have generations of really intelligent people who don't know how to care for themselves and have not thought beyond a certain point of their future because they got the piece of paper, they achieved the thing and have no plan for what the fuck happens next.
Exactly. Right. And also I think it is a lot of people used to say to my parents, to parents of gifted kids, right? They don't need special attention. Don't worry about them exactly this. They're smart. They're going to be fine. When you look at the numbers, when I look at like, for example, the people in Mensa that are sitting at home unemployed or with like, basically they're sick, all the things, being smart is not helping them be successful in the world in itself, right? You need so many other skills to basically have a good, fun life. It's not just your intelligence that's going to help you. So that is like the biggest fallacy. And it also, I think, really stops people from getting help. I think that's the other thing. Like, I have another episode on that, right? Like smart people problems, like the complete inability to ask for help because you're so smart. You should be able to figure this out on your own.
We had what we call glam camp. So again, subversive because glam camp, I was like, it's like drag queens took over Girl Scouts, but then they're going to teach you about real estate investing and how to buy diamonds and how to be fierce and overcome imposter syndrome. That's glam camp. So one of the fun things we did was we had a class on red lipstick and false eyelashes.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fun of it, yes. Yeah. But also, so many people were just not taught how to do that. But then they think they should know because they're smart. So they should be able to watch all the videos and just know. And then they're embarrassed.
YouTube it. Yeah.
Right? You should YouTube that, or you don't know how to do that, or why would you even want to? That's not feminist. That's blah, 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 right? And I was like, this is the most subversive, like fun thing is like, if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to. And just because you don't know how doesn't mean you can't learn. And if you have questions, we're going to create a safe space for you to be able to come and ask those questions that you're embarrassed to ask of like, what if I get glue all over my face or any number of things, right? And that was probably one of the most fun things we've done because it was like this conglomeration of all this, what seems seemingly disparate ideas that actually were all tied together. So, but yeah, I think there's an embarrassment over things that they think they should know or should have learned.
Should have figured out. Should
have figured out. My husband's extremely intelligent. I'm loath to say like his IQ is blah, 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 but it's extremely, extremely high.
Yeah.
He also has Asperger's, and some stuff is just we had to work for probably several years into our marriage before he would call to make an appointment for himself.
Yeah.
And not because he's dumb or something. There's nothing to do. He's extremely intelligent. It was horrifying for him.
Yes.
What do I say? Well, you ask for an appointment. But what if they don't have one? Well, they'll have one. They'll just give you dates. What if those dates don't work for me? Like, we had to plot out every potential scenario and then kind of coach him on like, even if these scenarios don't turn up and something wild happens that we have not conceived of, you will be okay. But I can't continue to make your appointments for you forever. Like, this is something you got to do, my friend. And even now, I'll be like, I called. I'm like,
amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. He's so
I'm autistic, right? So I have the same thing. It's like a nightmare. I'm so happy that the internet exists and that most appointments I can now actually book online rather than actually have to pick up the phone and like call a human, which is like my worst nightmare. Yeah.
Same for him. And having compassion for him, like, oh, okay, so this was a skill you didn't learn, but that doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. And I'm so glad we have each other so we could have these conversations. And I think that's what's so beautiful about you having your coaching program. I have my coaching program. So our smart cookies can go to somewhere and be like, okay, here's some shit I didn't learn.
Yeah, please help.
Can you tell me? Can we strategize this together?
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even about like doing the thing, but learning how to avoid doing the thing. That can also be like an amazing strategy.
Yeah, we do social interaction plans because, right?
Yep.
And one of the things I tell them is like, you're allowed to go take a timeout. In fact, we're going to plan our timeout on purpose. And after your timeout, if you really want to go, you have full fucking permission to leave. Yep. But let's plan our timeout so we don't beat you up if you have to regroup, if you get sensory overload.
Yep.
Any number of things happen. Like, we're just going to plan them on purpose. An hour in, we're going to go to the bathroom or we're going to go walk outside or we're going to plan our time out because that's the reality of sometimes being a smart cookie. It's just a little too much for the other humans.
Yeah.
We got to go find our time. And I think it's just been so interesting to see my clients like, wait, I could leave. Like,
yeah. This is why I love garden parties, by the way. I'll just hide behind a tree for a while and regroup.
Flip off into the background.
Yes. So good. But I love, this is so important, right? Giving yourself permission to be yourself and to sort of acknowledge your needs, not make them, make you tell yourself stories like, I'm weak, there's something wrong with me, et cetera, et cetera. No, bullshit. You just have had enough. You need a timeout. I fucking love that.
Yeah.
Anything else
you ask to give them permission slips. It's like, I'm always like, you always have all the permission slips.
You have permission for all the things you need. That is so good. And when it comes, I don't know if you have any clients who have like specific sensory needs when it comes to like clothing with labels. Do you ever like, is that something you go?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All the time.
So good. So I can't even wear jewelry, right? So like my wedding ring is in my bag all the time. But I know lots of people have trouble even giving themselves like permission to wear comfortable clothes.
Oh, this is probably one of the most recent, most painful things to me as a coach. This has actually come up a lot. The more I've talked about it, it's given permission for everyone else to talk about it in my groups. I've had several clients who resisted the idea of wearing clothing that felt good on their bodies.
Which in itself, we could have like a whole podcast on women hurting themselves. Right?
Oh my God.
Wait, we're parking that one.
Yes. Right. Wearing shoes that torture your feet and all kinds of fuckery. Because we were told beauty is pain. That's a stupid adage that gets thrown around. Well, this is one of those things. And I think sometimes when they were little, they were told you have to wear the lacy wool jumper. Yeah. Well, what I describe to them now is like, imagine literally someone has set your skin on fire and told you not to wiggle or move. And they did that to you as a toddler and you're doing it to yourself as an adult and your skin is literally on fucking fire. I was like, okay, let's just take like the sensory part, like the physical sensory part of that. I was like, think of what's happening in your brain from a neurochemical cascade standpoint when your skin is on fire and you're literally actively ignoring yourself. How much brain space are we taking up, ignoring all that little firing that's going off, telling you are in pain or discomfort? That is so fucking sad. Oh, I'm like getting teared up. Like, it just makes me so sad for so many of my clients, because it's just the way we're socialized, right? You sit still and you be quiet. So one of the things I work on with my clients is like, first we have to raise your awareness again, because you've been ignoring yourself for so long of what's intolerable to you, but you just haven't been admitting it. So we do a lot of body scanning at first. Like, you can get, if you have to go braless for however long till we sort you out, that's what the fuck we're going to do. So I have clients, just piles and piles and piles of clothing that they've gotten rid of because the tag was itchy. Some of my clients are really sensitive to the inner seams of things, but no one talks about this stuff, right? So like a seam, and you're just like super aware of toe seams on your socks. Oh my God. Like, can you imagine like walking with a pebble in your shoe? Well, that's what it feels like for our friends who have sensitivity to seams. Like, they feel like they're walking on pebbles all day. It's not nice.
Yep.
Why do we do this to each other? So talking more about that, my husband has very, like, his clothing, everything's tagless to the best of our ability. We try to get things that are not with seams. We just touch things. Yeah. We just go touch all the things. And I think we're told not to touch things in stores because that's impolite. You can go touch all the things. You have all my permission. And you open those things up and you look inside and you check out the seams. Is it lined? Is the seam protruding? Is it unraveling? Like, you get to go touch all the shit and see if this works for you.
People, this is your permission slip. Judith just gave it to you. Touch all the things.
Touch all the things in the store. Actually was caught once, me and my best friend. We went to the Saks Fifth Avenue Fur Salon. And no one was around, or so we thought. There's cameras in there, by the way, y'all.
Yeah.
And
just so you know.
We stuck our arms up mink coats and we're like rubbing our faces in them. And then the coats fell to the floor. So in panic, we were trying to like put them back on the hanger. And then the saleswoman came in and just stared at us. Like, we walked off. Yeah. Anyway, that's an aside. Yeah. But it's extremely important to have these conversations, right? Like, and just not tolerating anything that's physically uncomfortable. And if we can get you to stop tolerating things that are physically uncomfortable, maybe we can start to get you to stop tolerating things that are emotionally uncomfortable.
Yeah. 100%. So what do you think smart people tolerate too much, that when it comes to being emotionally uncomfortable? What is that like for you?
For me personally, so this is actually something recent. So I'll share something very recent and very personal. I noticed that my jaw was locking. This is about for a few months, because I was holding my face in such a neutral way, because I was acutely aware of my face was being watched and my reactions were being watched. I was holding my face in this very particular way, to the point where my jaw was locking because my face hurt. I was like,
insane,
okay,
right? It's like
this
coach face.
My coach face.
Yeah.
And that's not my natural face. I am very expressive. I mean, if anybody watches a video of this, you'll see my eyes are all over the place, my arms all over the place. Yep. Like I can tone it down if I have to and bring it in, sit in my little square box, but that's not naturally how I operate. And I don't know. No, I know why. I had an interaction where someone made a comment about something, and therefore I tried to change how I was holding my face. And it literally was painful, physically painful, because I was so emotionally uncomfortable that there was a physical manifestation of it, right? So I think a lot of times we're so trying to monitor our behavior, our reactions to things, and control them so tightly. We're so uncomfortable.
It's insane. There's this inner critic, and it's not just, the inner critic isn't just judging what you do. It's like, it's judging everything, like the tone of your voice. You're right? Your face, the whole shebang. And it's exhausting. It's demoralizing. It's so constrictive. It's just horrible.
It is horrible. Yeah. And you think at a certain point, like you just be over, right? Like, oh, you're in the public, you should, grow a thicker skin, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, not over it. Hope I never will be. I don't want to be that jaded. I actually hope I'm still very sensitive to what people say about me. I don't ever want to get that kind of a skin. No, thank you. But yeah, I
not
don't.
to a point where it makes you change the way
Right.
you react, right? Naturally.
Or hold your face so tightly you get lockjaw.
Yeah. Insanity. I think I see it a lot in the coaching business where somehow people think they need to have like this very neutral face, and they become these sort of, I'm not saying this is what happened to you, but some people become like robots almost, because they're like, yeah, I can't like, give too much reactivity to what my clients is saying. Well, hell yes, you can. Actually, you can be a fucking human, and please do. I'll love you more for it.
And please, I'll benefit when you show up fully as yourself. I think that the mythos is that if we all conform and prescribe to this cookie cutter vision of professional coach, that the community, right, the coaching industry is better served if we have these, modalities that we operate in and these structures. And maybe yes, but probably not.
No.
And for the most part, no, and no, thank you. And I don't know that I want a part of that. And it's so interesting to see myself like still there's vestiges of moments where I'm like, oh, I wish I had said that differently though. I wish I had done that differently.
It's so fascinating though. Like the way we have so much internalized crap of how we should be, what it means to show up professionally. By the way, I love what LinkedIn is doing. I don't know if you've seen like they've had massive campaigns around, for example, people showing up to work with dreads, and like, what does professional look like? Completely redefining that, or pink hair and so on, right? Because we have this wild idea that a guy in a suit is what professional looks like with a tie. I mean, even like, that's the other thing. I would love to talk for an hour about what happened to men's fashion, right? Like, seriously, poor dudes, they get the suits and that's it, right? Like, when you look at the 18th century, it's wild. And then poof.
Well, I mean, Louis XIV is the one who popularized heels.
See?
Heels were for men. They actually were not for women initially, my friends, right? Yeah. Oh, no, all kinds of, yeah.
But we weren't going to.
I love that. We could, anytime you want me back, we could do the fucked up history of fashion anytime you want. Yeah.
But I think it's what I want to talk about is like internal policing that we do, right? That is just, it kills any joy you have in life. And I also see when people start their own business, where they're a coach or someone else, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do social media. And then the internal policing starts. And you look at them, you're like, hello, anybody in there? Who? I mean, I don't even know you anymore, right? It's just, they try to be something they're not. And they're trying to be something that is basically average and very boring, even though it may seem quote unquote perfect, what they think other people want to see. But it's just hollow, and it hurts them, right? And it also hurts their business, by the way.
I think it hurts them. I think it hurts their business. And I think it actually collectively hurts all of us. And I say that in sort of a funny way, but if I believe like there's always a ripple effect to things we do. If you're not making any ripples, we can't be affected by you. So the change you were hoping to make in the world is not going to reach the impact that you wanted. If you're like tipping your toe in the water as opposed to splashing around. And I'm not saying we have to go around like, dropping mics or being, argumentative for the sake of that. And I think sometimes people take these hyperbolic extremes. Well, then I'm always going to be fighting with people. That's a choice.
No, that's a black and white thinking, right? And also it doesn't mean if you're an introvert, you need to become something completely different. Not at all. Right. Be the introvert you are, right? Please. And people are going to love you for it. The introverts will flock to you, basically.
They'll find your people will find you. Yes. And one of the things we talk about too is like finding fierce. This is one of the kind of workshops we do in my program. And there's different types of ferocity.
Oh, tell me more. I love this.
Right. So we think sometimes of fierce is like the extrovert. And I said, that's one type of fierce, right? So we have, I said queen on her throne, and one of my clients is like empress, baby. I was like, all right, empress.
All right.
Like delegating and being the center of attention and commanding the room. Like that's a type of ferocity. But there's also the lioness lying in wait who's equally ferocious.
Yeah.
And she's very quiet in her approach. And both have merit, and we need both. And obviously I'm using Joe for generalities as archetypes, but I think
sure,
it works because I think sometimes so much credence is given to our empress on the throne as the right kind of ferocity. And the lioness is sort of diminished as like, well, that's their exact right way to be. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then people force themselves to want something they don't really want and work towards it. And then they're surprised that doesn't work. Right. And I think also more in general, career wise, a lot of people are aiming for something they secretly hate or they think they're going to hate. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, I coach on this all the time. It's like, well, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And I should have done it this way. And I should have said it this way in this particular tone and this particular man. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's just imagine for a moment you spent the day with this imaginary version of you who never laughs, is never irreverent, knows exactly what to say and how to say it and when to stop speaking and how to hold her face and how to hold her body and how to sit in a chair, how to propose ideas and not propose ideas. Imagine you spent the day with that human. Do you like this person?
It'd be so awful.
Like, fuck that person. She sounds awful. Like, you're asking yourself to twist yourself into knots to become this person you don't even like that you wouldn't want to spend the day with. What are we doing? We've lost the plot, loves.
I think this is a great exercise for anyone listening, right? Just do this, like all the things you've been telling yourself you should be doing. Imagine yourself doing all of them. And then do you even like this person? I think that is genius. That is so good.
Chances are probably not.
Yeah. So listen, what is your 10-year vision, what you want to build when we're talking about world building? It could be 5, but what's the future look like for you?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, smart human. Probably listening to this podcast because you want to learn how to manage that smart mind of yours. And the first step is actually getting your bearings, doing a little brain audit. And I have the perfect tool for that, the Mapping Your Unique Brain Workbook. And you can actually download it for free at www.coachkramer.org/brainmap. So that's coachkramer.org/brainmap. Go check it out and play with it and take your first step to managing your smart mind.
Like my brain, I was like, oh, tone it down. I'm not going to tone it down. I'll tell you the things.
Please.
I'll tell you the things. So part of the vision is, my brand is called Modern Charm School.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to eventually have locations around the world.
Mm.
And we will have sisters, I like that word, sisters who run certain chapters around the world. So if you were to go to the New York chapter, one of the sisters there would tour you around New York. You could stay at the physical location where we have classes every day. And again, it's going to be a little subversive. So we will teach you about high tea. We'll also teach you how to make more money in your portfolio. Right. And so we'll have different classes on financial education, as well as legacy building, business courses, things on charm and style. Absolutely. So I like to say, if you were to imagine, welcome into the modern charm world with me, I want you to imagine an Art Nouveau building. Mm-hmm. That's pink and has ironwork and a beautiful awning and a doorman in a dove gray suit. And the first floor is style. So the first floor is where we get you dressed and ready for the world outside your closet. And then the second floor is where we talk about wealth in the very expansive way that we discussed earlier. And then the third floor is gumption, how to lead with gumption. And gumption, the way I teach it, is initiative, determination, and courage. So what do we just start doing, continue doing, or maybe pivot? And then the very top floor is legacy.
Yes.
So you move up through the floors. So you can think bigger picture, right? It's the top floor for a reason. So you can look out over your life and what kind of a legacy would you like to leave? What kind of ripple effect would you like to leave? So we'll have buildings like that all over the world, teaching very charming things subversively. And that's
I just
the
have to
hope.
interrupt you there for 1 second and tell people, like, one very subversive thing I learned recently about fashion is like the use of hat pins to actually ward off attackers, like on the trains in the UK. Is it in the Victorian age? I don't, details.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Self-defense, right? Fashion for self-defense.
Fashion for self-defense. I mean, there's a whole subversive history to pockets alone with women.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh my God, we can still go there one day. Okay.
Yes.
I'll be back. I think we'll have to figure out how we could like chat again. You could come on my podcast or something.
100% and talk about all these things that I have actually been taught by my subversive daughter, who's obsessed with sewing and, sews her own pockets because it's ridiculous that there aren't any.
There aren't any. We weren't meant to have them, apparently, because we're not allowed to own property. Why would we need the keys to our very own houses? We're not even allowed to own them. Oh my God, so many thoughts.
Okay, going back to your legacy, right? Like in the next 10 years.
Yes, 10-year plan. So then the idea is to have proper locations, regular chapter meetings in different locations, and to have a philanthropic arm that is a microfinance company for businesses, particularly artists.
This is amazing. I love it. And how is this going to be interesting for you, like over all those years? How are you going to keep it exciting and fresh?
I don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. That's how I feel. I don't know what shit my brain's going to come up with. I just sent my team, so overnight, because this is how my brain works. So typically I'll do my work during the day and around 10 o'clock at night. So from 10 to 2 a.m., typically my brain will actually come online fully. It's been this way for forever, and I don't fight it anymore. I used to be really pissed at myself that I wouldn't get tired, and now I'm like, can we just roll with it? This is how we roll. So from 10 p.m. usually to about 2 a.m., my brain will be like, hi, take notes. I'm like, all right, what do we got today? And we just came up with a whole, and I don't want to say too much because we're going to actually present it to our students soon, but a whole secret society within Modern Charm School.
Oh my God.
And, the secret society has its own motto. It's going to have its own special badge.
So fun. Okay.
I don't know what the fuck my brain's going to do from 1 minute to the next. And I stopped fighting it. I just let it go where it goes now. It would probably take me a lifetime to go through the ideas I have in just my idea spreadsheet. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And listen, what I want to, I think what's important to mention, because to us, it seems so natural now to like run with our ideas and completely trust them. How did you build that trust? Because most people are going to freak out. They'll have an idea and their brain's going to say, this is impossible. This is insane. This is never going to happen. Go back to thinking normal things, please, because, danger, death, all the things.
Damn it. I mean, I tried for 6 months to be normal. It was terrible.
Yeah,
don't put that on anyone.
Burnouts later, in my case. Yeah.
Right. I've had ebbs and flows with this relationship with my creative self. So my imaginary friend life, we'll just say, was very vivid until a friend told me, like, that's weird. You shouldn't do that anymore. That's like the precursor to schizophrenia. And I was like, oh,
bloody hell. Come on.
Like, talk to a smart kid to scare the shit out of another smart kid. Well, that's the way to do it. You tell her it's a precursor to being schizophrenic. And we were young, and I remember being like, I want to be schizophrenic. And then, like, went and researched schizophrenia and how it manifests itself when you're younger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
So then, of course,
with Aaron.
I was like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. So for years, I was actually like afraid to
tapping into
it, because I was like, well, what does that mean? What if I start to really see them? Right? Like, none of that has ever occurred, y'all. And that's not to diminish anyone's experience of that. I didn't mean in a cavalier sense, but that has not happened.
Yeah. But not to like basically try and suppress it because someone says something crazy. Frightening,
very frightening. And then the more I've coached, the more I've allowed myself to dabble. And then I'll listen to someone, what I think is they know better than me or sound advice. And I'll spend months in misery. And then I bring myself back to, this is not your way.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been coaching a lot on with my clients is, well, what's your method? Yeah. What's your method? I have no idea. Well, let's figure out how your brain works and how to get you the support you need. So some clients, especially some of my one-on-one clients, I just hang out with them while they do work. They just need a body double.
Yeah.
They don't need to say anything. They don't need to do anything. They just need to sit there with them while they do shit. Yeah. I'm here for you, babe, whatever you need. So You mean take notes while you're just thought downloading your dreams at me? Like, let's do it. So I'm so much more receptive to that and others. So that's being more receptive to myself. And I got coached in November on this very thing, which was very funny. Because I was crying. I cry hysterically when I get coached. I'm like a mess. So I was like, or the ha-has.
The sobbing.
I was sobbing. Yeah. I was like racked with sobs, and I was sharing my vision with my coach, and it's so big, and how am I going to do it? It's overwhelming. And she said, and she's very tough, and I think she meant this in the most loving way. She said, if I had to go back to your past self and explain to them how you were behaving right now, the woman who has fulfilled every dream she's had, she'd be very upset with you. And I would have to tell her, this bitch is complaining about the same thing. I was like, damn! Oh, that's good. Oh, shit. And she's like, just because someone doesn't buy something you offer doesn't mean the idea wasn't good. You 100%. Just have to keep selling them on the idea.
I think that's the other thing, right? That people get discouraged so quickly and they make themselves wrong instead of thinking, oh, I have some data, right? Now, what are my data? Is it like, do I have one no? Do I have like 5,000 no's? That makes a massive difference, right? If you have 5,000 no's, right, out of, 5,001 offers, maybe you need to rethink what you're doing. But if you have 3 no's and you've made like 5 offers, that is like, no.
No, right? So it's that has stuck with me. That little, I mean, she probably said it offhand, not even thinking. It's just like, you have a good idea. Just because someone didn't buy something doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea. You should have to sell them on your idea. And I was like, and that has been a game changer for me. So I was like, my ideas are good. My ideas are sound. And that's what I just keep presenting to my brain over and over. That's
and I think there's also the red thread in your career that actually proves that your ideas are sound. Maybe sometimes
I do have lovely evidence for it.
Yes. So fun, right? And I think for people who are listening to this and sort of freaking out and worrying, like, but I can't just, right? ... It's not that black and white, right? You can start sort of listening a little bit more to your intuition and thinking maybe even you're at a restaurant and usually you're like, oh, I don't care, whatever everybody else is having. And just look at the menu. And when you see something and you fucking desire it, you just speak up like, I want this steak and I want it rare or whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
Right. And then the more you do that in all the arenas of your life, you can also start doing it for work, for business, because you can start feeling it in the first place.
Yeah. And I even just think like, we don't have to do anything about it. We can even back it up like slightly and say, just ask yourself the question and listen to your own answer. You get to decide whether you do anything with the information. I think sometimes we think because we have the idea, therefore we have to go do something. I have what's called an idea parking lot. Literally, it would take me a long time.
God, with the cars. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All the things. This is what I tell my clients. Go to like the dumpster or whatever, get the cheap cars, but put like Post-its on it with your ideas.
Yeah, like
cars.
I don't have to do anything. You just have the idea. Like that, there's beauty in just that alone.
Yes.
We don't have to go execute on it. And I think the world tells us like we have to be in this execution mode. It's a killer of dreams sometimes. Just let yourself play a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. And ask yourself the question internally, like, what would I like?
Yeah.
What would I like?
And what feels super juicy right now? I love to ask that question. Like, what feels super juicy right now? Because if it's not juicy, I know I'm not going to do it. Basically, I'm going to procrastinate forever.
Or I'll create secret plans. I'll tell myself I'm going to do it, but then I have a secret plan never to do that damn thing. And then I'll beat myself up because I have the secret plan that I didn't share with myself. Like,
yeah, all that. And when it comes to like the change you want to see in the world, right? I mean, of course, part of what you're building is going to create all that. But speak to me a little bit about the philanthropy, what you want with that, because that's another thing I love, because especially women are usually, when I talk to them, like, I'm not that interested in money. Actually, lots of gifted men as well. Like, and I get it. You're internally driven, you're content driven. Money is neutral, et cetera, but money, it can be such a force for good, right? And it's power. So.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where that's how it works. Now, I could wish for something different. I could hope for something different, but that's not the system I operate in, unfortunately, because I'm a human on this planet. What is impressive, and I'm going to use a biblical example just because I have a Christian background, and this is the big change for me, but take of this analogy what you will and just extrapolate out what works best for you.
Yep.
One of the things that was impressed upon me that really hit home for me. And I think it was actually, I went to a religious college, and one of the nuns was like, it takes money, right? I was like, what the fuck? And like, I was like, a nun is telling me, it takes money, right? And she used the example in the Bible of Lydia. She was the seller of purple cloth. That's actually how she's referenced. Now, women are rarely named by name in the Bible. And then when their professions are listed, you probably should pay attention because it means something pretty important. And one of the things that was very interesting about her is that she persuades the early disciples to come to her house.
What?
And if you read the different translations, sometimes it's like she demanded, sometimes it's persuaded, sometimes it's like asked, but like there's an earnestness about her behavior. And she actually is part of the early church's support. It's important that she was a seller of purple cloth. This is integral to that moment in history. We need the sellers of purple cloth to advance forward whatever our mission is in the world, right? So, dear friends, some of you are going to be the sellers of purple cloth. We don't have to lament that role in history that you have. That's super important. Like for whatever movement you're trying to advance or cause or research or whatever the case may be. For me, I know that as someone who started the idea of being a fashion designer and then got very discouraged, that so often artists are not taught the business side of art.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
How are you going to make your living, my loves? Please go make poetry. Please go write books and novels and fiction and do lovely things. Please, we need you. But we also need to teach you how to feed yourself.
Yes. And also how to really ask for money. Because I mean, I used to teach art and work as a professional photographer, and the art world is so fucked up. People are just constantly working for nothing, for free, right? It's insane.
For experience.
Yeah, like it's like an eternal internship, right? It's like for life, basically. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And as long as people keep doing that, and I get it, right? You love what you're doing and you're doing it for the art, et cetera, but you're basically saying, okay, this system is okay. You're supporting a system that is sick in itself. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox. You say when you were
No. But I think even she's more very practical. I think about like my mom. My mom is like a perpetual side hustler. Like if you hang out with my mom long enough, she's going to sell you something. She's going to sell you mascara, some new cream or some shit. Like, that's how my mom rolls. She'll just like whip them out. She's like, I got mascaras here. Do you need like, that's my mom, right? She's such a good saleswoman. And what I've observed over time, just kind of watching her and her different entrepreneurial things over time is like, what would a $300 to $100 have made a difference for her? Right. So many women business owners, like let's say you want to buy a food truck, but you need to get your first oil change. Well, for a food truck oil change, it's actually extremely expensive. If you want to put your food costs, money towards food costs, how are you going to pay for your oil change or your new tires or to get licensed with your city? Do you even know how to get licensed with your city? Like the little shit that like $500 would make a difference, $300 would make a difference. If you need new paint, if you need a special type of canvas, if you need the money so that you can pay a gallery to show your work on a Sunday and at 2:00 or some shit, just that little hurdle, how can we help you overcome it so that you can get to that next stage, whatever that looks like for you? Like that, oh my God, like so juicy. Like, ooh, yeah. $50 sometimes can be the huge fucking difference.
Yes. 100. So is that what you want to do with your philanthropy?
Yeah, I want it to be in the microfinance level. Like I definitely think
like Kiva, but for art.
But like Kiva, but for art and particularly for women artisans. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my God. Okay. Started. I want to like start investing today.
I'll keep you realities of
I'm like a massive,
and how it works.
I'm a massive Kiva fan, but like there's like hardly any artisans on there, right? It's mostly, and I actually on Kiva, okay, people were getting very distracted, but if you haven't heard about Kiva yet, it's an amazing microfinancing site. If you have any spare change, go there and lend it to, well, my preference would be a woman. We can talk about that some other time, but you can choose whoever you want to lend it to, whatever industry, whatever country. Usually you get your money back and you get to be insanely happy that you were able to support another human being on this planet with your surplus, right?
And you send it back out again. That's like your $50 can go around the world multiple freaking times, y'all. And
it's so good.
I had the experience, and this I think is forever printed on my brain. I had a family member who had to do oh my gosh, it's such a rigged system. It's so awful. This check to cash system. Have you heard of this? It's terrible. No. So before you get your paycheck, you can get a loan on your paycheck before it comes. Think about keeping you in a poverty cycle. This is so fucked up. There are lots of times in poor neighborhoods. And this is not to diminish anyone who's had to get them. You do you boo always, but this is, y'all got to pay attention to this. So you get an advance on your paycheck because most jobs don't do that anymore. So you go get an advance, you get this loan. If you read the terms of these loans.
Oh, the interest.
If you default by one day, it's 126% interest because they're outside of the regular banking system. It should be
illegal.
It should be fucking illegal, but here's how they get you. They'll call you the day before it's due and tell you to come in for another loan and advance on your next check so that you can stave off payment of this one. And you end up in this daisy chain.
The Yakuza used to do this in Japan in like the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
It's right, but we legalized it in the States. I mean, seriously, you would go to Loan Shark, right? You would go to the guy who ran the numbers, right? Back in the day. We have legalized the system. What's so fascinating to me and so heartbreaking is most of the time, these are micro loans. This is a few $100s.
Yes, just to tide you over.
Just to tide you over.
Yeah. We
need a tide you over system for artists who don't have a paycheck to take advances on, right? Like,
I love this.
Oh, girl.
And also, right. And just hosting an exhibition. I remember like doing my first photography exhibition, like how expensive it was to get the prints, right? I mean, it's insane. If you haven't sold anything yet, you need someone to like.
You can't show people digitally, like, here, isn't it pretty? Like, that doesn't work that way. Yeah. So I actually want to have an incubator space. Oh my God. The vision's huge, but
I love it. Yeah, no, keep it coming.
Like, I want an incubator space, but I also want it to be a workspace because renting workspace like a booth can be very expensive, right? So we want to facilitate like the fullness of that and then have like a mentorship cycle. And this is something that's really, we're going to roll out for Modern Charm School next year, hopefully, is a mentorship system where you would pay for someone's year in Modern Charm School at a discount with the agreement. It's a social contract. It's not a firm one. That person would then pay it forward to another mentee the following year. And during that year, we'd have special calls to help you work on whatever like gumption-filled goal you have in the mentee program. And then it would just be a pay it forward system that's perpetual. So
good. I hope this is giving listeners so many ideas, right? Because I know so many people who are like, I want to make a difference in the world, but how, right? Like, I don't know how, and I don't trust like the big charities and so on and so forth. It can be, you know, relatively simple. You can make small changes within your own realm. Something like this can make a massive difference, even if it's just to one person, maybe to 10 people. It's insane.
Yeah. And even just making yourself available. So if you know something, this is why we say wealth of knowledge, right? So part of your legacy could be wealth of knowledge. If you just have a life experience or you have some knowledge that someone else doesn't have, and they're receptive, right? We don't want to just go telling people things. Like somebody actually. This is
not about preaching. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not preaching at people, dropping mics on them. But if someone actually wants to enter into a mentorship relationship with you because you have some knowledge to impart, maybe you don't have like monetary means, but you have some knowledge, some life skills, some experience with something that you could impart. That's something, again, we don't want to just value like the things. We could put value on whatever we want, especially if you're a woman and we don't pay you for that stuff. It still has tons of value.
There's like a superpower I learned during COVID, which I'd never learned before. And I wish someone would have mentored me with this. And that's networking, right? And especially as someone with autism, networking doesn't come very easy to me, even though I love to talk. You may have noticed, but being in a room with lots of people doesn't work. But also just constantly undervaluing myself, et cetera, et cetera. So during COVID, I got on Lunch Club and I started meeting more and more people. And I was like, oh, I can have amazing conversations with really smart, successful humans. Maybe I can be one too, right? Or see myself as, I probably already was one, but I was
going to say myself. Okay.
No, right. But that, exactly. But that was a massive shift for me. Like, oh my God, I can, this is networking. I am doing networking. It's just all it is finding people who are, you know, interesting. And I just want to ask them a shit ton of questions. I listen, I learn, right? And they learn a little bit from me. We have fun. And then we ask each other, how can I help you?
Yep.
I mean, you know, if someone would explain this to me when I was 20, that would have been super useful.
Well, because we thought networking was like in the suits in the room with the cards. Like,
yes, exactly. But it's stuff like that can make such a massive difference in a career, right? I found this out in my late 40s. I mean, if we can share that stuff and pay it forward and tell people in their 20s, like, listen, no, it's so much easier than you think it is. And this is how you can do it. Here are some simple steps. I mean, that's amazing. Love it.
So good.
Anything else you want to say? Anything people should know about you, the membership, or just some final words of advice?
Oh man, I'm like, what? There's so much ground that we covered.
We'll have to talk again.
We'll have to talk again. So I'll leave us with that. We'll be back, friends. We'll be back because this was so good. Just come hang out. If you want to find out more about me and what I do, you can just go to judithgaton.com. If you want to find out specifically about Modern Charm School and all the subversively charming things we're doing there, you could go to judithgaton.com/Modern Charm School.
Love it. I love the intrigue. Hey, smart human. You're probably listening to this podcast because you want to learn how to manage that smart mind of yours. And the first step is actually getting your bearings, doing a little brain audit. And I have the perfect tool for that, the Mapping Your Unique Brain Workbook. And you can actually download it for free at www.coachkramer.org/brainmap. So that's coachkramer.org/brainmap. Go check it out and play with it and take your first step to managing your smart mind.